Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to today's live reading of Lottery of Secrets by Nadija Mujagic, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Join me. Chapter 1. I'd rather die than let Jimmy discover my lottery win. I wouldn't be able to get the words out to tell anyone about it anyway, because this can't be happening. I must be having an incredible dream, one I never want to wake up from. But it's all too real. Holy crap, I whispered to myself. The scratch ticket feels smooth in my hand, and I just keep turning it over and over, rereading it, caressing it. $5 million. How do I even begin to grapple with that? It's been a while since I won anything. All my recent winnings have been minuscule, $10 here and there, just enough to pay for the ticket and a little extra for a cup of coffee. But this is just crazy. I'd never in a million years believed that I, Lynn Miller, could win this amount of money with just a simple scratch ticket. My lucky stars have finally shown up on me. After the disheartening news I received the other day, I thought to myself, why not indulge in a little bit of enjoyment and try my luck with a few scratch tickets? I fidget in the front seat of my car and hold the ticket up in the air in front of me, shaking it. I sniff it and bring it closer to my eyes to check the three matching amounts again. It's not a dream. It's most definitely real. Even so, I count all the zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that precede a 5. And I force myself to catch a breath and hold it to myself to stop myself from hyperventilating. $5 million in 3 slots. I count the zeros yet again, my hand shaking as I cross my fingers over the ticket. My belly hasn't stirred with this much excitement in a long time, if ever. But I put a lid on the euphoria and stifle it because it just won't last. It just can't. I start to turn on the engine, and a sudden surge of coughing catches me by surprise, overwhelming me. I get out of my car, walk to the passenger side, and bend down near a bush. Clots of blood spew out of my mouth and settle on the grass beside the bush. My knees buckle under the strain of my weak body, so I kneel to the ground and take time to slow my breathing and compose myself. These little attacks I've been having as of late are becoming more violent and frequent, and there's not a lot I can do to tame them. I wipe my mouth and head back to the car. It's an old Honda Accord I've kept alive, thanks to Jimmy, who's an experienced car mechanic. But now I can afford to buy a new one and not worry about whether it'll get me into an accident like the one I had a few years ago. I'm still shaken from the experience, and I always drive extra carefully to avoid a mishap. The driver's door is still jangly, but I've learned to yank it hard every time I open and close it. When I sit down, I realize I'd left the ticket on the passenger seat while I was busy coughing up my insides. I cuss at myself for being so stupid and careless. Who leaves $5 million laying around? Me, apparently. I'm being paranoid, though. No one could have stolen it. After all, I'm sitting in a deserted restaurant parking lot when it's too late for lunch and too early for dinner. I slam the door shut and do a frantic search in my mind for places to run away to. Jimmy has a tight leash on me, but maybe, just maybe, this is my ticket to freedom. As I drive to the house, I daydream about what I can do with the $5 million in my hands. A big new house with a swimming pool, a luxurious car, and a fancy vacation. I have never left New England, and I'd love to see places like Atlantic City or Las Vegas, do a little gambling, have some fun, or maybe go to Bahamas or Bermuda. Frankly, I don't know the difference between these two, but I've heard they're both exotic. Who cares about the difference? It's a place to get a suntan and savor new kinds of food. But who am I kidding? I'm not going anywhere. I won't be spending this money on a new lavish lifestyle or any brand new persona this money can buy. None of these options are ultimately viable. I know exactly what this money can do for me. It won't be any fancy houses, cars, vacations, none of that. It'll have to be spent on a good cause, something worthy enough to bring me redemption, erase the guilt I've carried all these years. Only then can I die in peace. Chapter 2. When I get home, I sigh with relief that Jimmy's car is missing from our driveway. He must still be at work. It'll buy me enough time to hide the ticket and come up with a plan. I park in front of our house, noticing more than ever that it looks like a shithole. The conditions are more noticeable now that I could have a better option, now that I'm picturing that big house with a swimming pool. We rented it so long ago that the landlord no longer minds if we can't pay the rent on time. Jimmy brings this up whenever he doesn't want to pay his half of the rent because he's in a bad mood about his life. I take a couple extra shifts at the restaurant to make enough to cover for his half. I'm surprised the landlord hasn't kicked us out yet, but I'm sure he appreciates our predictability and the fact he doesn't have to do any major repairs, even though the house needs them. It's in a row of other similarly looking homes, all 1 story high and piled in close together. Rose, our nosy older neighbor, is on one side, and a young couple we rarely see is on the other. The house's location is prime, just a few blocks from the beach, but it's small, the size of a shoebox. Jimmy and I spend most of our time apart when we're in the house, me in the bedroom and he on the couch in the living room. We've slept separately for decades. It's one of those things that you don't think about twice, you just do it because it's become second nature. And if it suddenly reversed, it would just be too weird, unnatural. When I enter the house, it's quiet except for the fridge humming in the kitchen's corner. It's an old GL fridge, often leaking from underneath and stuffed with beer and vodka, Jimmy's favorite. A musty smell has lingered inside the house. We ever barely open the windows to air out the space. The walls are crumbling and the paint has chipped, hanging from the ceiling, but we've had no means to fix any of it. We don't call the landlord to complain or request repairs for fear that he'll kick us out, because if he did, I don't think we could find a better place for the same price. Our credit scores or references are not exactly what you consider favorable. That's why when the roof recently leaked, Jimmy fixed it himself with large sheets of nylon bags secured with bricks. The leaks have dwindled, but they're still there. At least the roof hasn't collapsed on us yet. It's our home, but it doesn't always feel welcoming or warm. Inside, there isn't one photograph of Jimmy and me together hanging on the wall or sitting on top of the dressers or side tables. No memorabilia or trinkets that tie us to our past. You'd think there would be at least one damn fridge magnet from a place we'd visited together, but not even that. The house is plain, boring, and tired looking, reminding me of all the things that got us to where we are now. We've let the house go just like we've let go of our marriage and ourselves. Now that I've won a lot of money, we could get out of this situation and find a better home, one more suitable for our tastes. All these years, Jimmy has dreamt of having a large yard overlooking the ocean where we can spread out and have barbecues on a whim, invite people to ooh and ah at our beautiful life. This house is not conducive to happy living. I wish I could be excited to share the news with Jimmy about the win. I wish I could get caught up in the joy of the dream alongside him as we plan for our new home. But I've made myself a promise, and I don't want to get his hopes up just to dash them. The first thing I do when I come inside is take the winning ticket out of my bra and put it under the mattress of my bed. I am pretty certain Jimmy won't go into my room, much less snoop around. There's no way he'd suspect I just won the lottery. I rack my brain and try to plan my next steps. I pace around the living room, my mind racing. What have I seen winners do in the past when they're on the news? Nothing comes to mind. I guess I should keep my mouth shut for now and maybe find a lawyer, but I don't know any. I've only heard of some guy Jimmy threatened me with as a divorce lawyer years ago, when in reality he was just a clerk in the town court. Those threats came and went over and over, and I'm just numb to them now. There's no doubt I could find a lawyer on the internet. Under normal circumstances, I'd also need an accountant to help me manage the incoming wealth, but my circumstances are anything but normal. All my life, I've dealt mainly with cash. The tips I've earned from waitressing and some gambling at the main casino in Hampton, a hole in the wall I used to call my second home. Jimmy forbade me from going there ages ago. He said vices like gambling are not for poor people like us. When I mentioned his heavy drinking, he explained that it was just a welcome reprieve from his busy day at work and not a vice. I lie down on the couch, albeit restlessly, and place my head on the headboard, a position that helps me manage my breathing. To reduce the anxiety caused by today's news, I take a few deep breaths and close my eyes. My job comes to mind. I've worked at the same restaurant, Red Urchin, for many years, and I can't help but consider what it would be like just to quit. Barbara may need me since the tourist season is about to bloom, and it's been difficult finding staff that won't quit on a whim. I don't want to let Barbara down, but leaving could be the best option, especially as I have little time left. The heaviness of all the thinking lulls me to sleep. The slamming of the front door pulls me from my slumber. I look up at the clock on the wall and see it's past 7. Jimmy stumbles into the room, swaying from side to side like a tree, doing his best not to fall. The heavy smell of alcohol fills the room. I stand up and sit straight on the couch, feeling woozy from the sleep. Jimmy stops in the middle of the room and stares at me. What the hell have you been doing all afternoon? For some reason, he doesn't believe taking naps during the day is an acceptable activity. His voice sounds harsh and intimidating. I've heard it many times, and I know what comes next. More intimidation and interrogation. I fell asleep. I didn't mean to. He rests his eyes on the kitchen a few feet away from where he's standing. Anything to eat? I don't know, I say. Look in the cabinet. Most days, Barbara kindly allows me to take a plate or two of food from the restaurant, but today I was too distracted and forgot to bring some home. I haven't cooked in a while. Jimmy has never been impressed with my culinary skills, which I can't blame him for, to be honest. They're nearly non-existent. Sometimes I wonder if that's one reason I've kept the waitressing job as long as I have. Getting free meals on a regular basis is a good benefit. Jimmy stands in the middle of the room, his menacing eyes looking at me. His fists clench and unclench by his sides and his jaw tightens. What did you say? He hates being told to do something, even when it's only for his benefit. I said, look in the cabinet. There's some noodle soup you can put in the microwave. Sorry, I forgot to get some food at Urchin. As always, I didn't mean to enrage Jimmy, but I fully expect what comes next. It happens pretty much every single time he drinks. He stomps in my direction, and then his feet land in front of me. He raises his right arm and swings it above me. And the next thing I know, his hand is slapping my face hard, sending vibrations through my head. I don't flinch. I felt worse. He stares down at me and waits for my reaction. I do and say nothing. I put my head down to compose my thoughts and then bring it back up to gaze at Jimmy's tired eyes. I won the lottery. As soon as I blurt it out, I bite down on my lip and clench my fist. My eyes roll in my sockets, regretting the second the words came out of my mouth. The cat is out of the bag and there's no way to beckon it back. I didn't tell Jimmy to make him happy. I was just hoping it would distract him and then maybe he'll skip the beating tonight. There's more of it to come. A single slap is always just the prelude. He cocks his head to the side and he narrows his eyes at me. Huh? I won the lottery today. $5 million. Are you fucking with me? He stares down at me with disgust on his face. I jump up from the couch and run to the bedroom. Under the mattress, I feel for the ticket and pull it out, gripping it as if my life depends on it. And maybe it does. I walk back to the living room where Jimmy's still standing in the same spot. His mouth is hanging open and he looks agitated, unsure of what he just heard. I hand him the ticket. Here. He looks at me with disgust on his face and he yanks the ticket out of my hand. He brings it closer to his eyes as if waiting for the image to travel to his brain so he can fully register the news. Holy shit, 5 mil. Jimmy looks at me and lets an uproarious laugh. We're rich. We're damn filthy rich. I imagine 1,000 new possibilities flash in front of his eyes. The news sobers him up and joy covers his face. He approaches me and picks me up with ease. A mere 120 pounds is nothing for Jimmy. He swings me around a few times, then drops me on the floor and pushes me away. His gaze is fixed on the ticket as he grins. I sigh in relief. I wasn't meaning to make Jimmy happy, but I've avoided the beating, although I know I deserve it. Tonight, I'm just too weak to take it. Tonight, I need a break.